why our culture is failing. So when we talk about our mental models, I'm going to give you a mental model formula formation. Right. So here's a statement I want you to actually memorize. So our goal is grace and truth. So grace and empathy without truth and boundaries is enablement, but truth and boundaries without grace and empathy is toxic. Memorize that. So welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Greg Stewart, and this is week 7 in a series I am doing to promote my book, iCubed, Unlock the Inner Strength Behind Your Negative Emotions, right? Coming out January 21st of 2025. Our culture is always on a cultural pendulum. Let's just discuss about grace and truth. Years ago, there was a feeling in our culture and in our families that it was too much, it was too toxic because it was about truth and boundaries, and there wasn't enough grace and empathy. Now the cultural pendulum has swung the other way to where now it's extreme on the side of having grace and empathy, but not enough truth and boundaries. A foundational premise to my book, again, is that everything we do is trying to achieve an emotional goal. Okay. Every behavior, choice, decision we make is trying to actually achieve an emotional goal. When it comes to this process of our culture overemphasizing empathy as well as love. So those are the emotional goals, which are obviously great goals. But in the pursuit of emphasizing those two goals, people in our culture are taking the goal of achieving love and empathy without analyzing the pathways that we're taking to achieve those two emotional goals. And a lot of the pathways people are taking currently in our culture do not pass the test of rational, healthy, wise, and right. So a lot of the paths we are choosing to accomplish the very good goals of love and empathy are irrational, unhealthy, unwise, or just flat out wrong. That's number one. Number two is they're placing the responsibility for achieving the feeling of love and empathy on the environment, on people in their lives, on our culture, on our entertainment industry, on our government. And that's a huge problem because why? Because their happiness, their emotional goal of feeling love and feeling empathy is now placed in, the power is placed in other people. And that is a disaster because if my happiness, my emotional contentment, my positive emotions are contingent upon other people validating these paths, it's going to be an absolute mess. The first issue that we choose non-rational, healthy, wise, and right paths to achieve emotional goals, such as I said that in order to reduce stress, we choose the pathway of drinking alcohol. We know that that pathway is not rational, healthy, wise, and right. When it comes to trying to be admired and desired, like a big goal for a guy to feel significant, he chooses relationships outside of his marriage, not rational, healthy, wise, or right. And then when I worked with the girls at the residential treatment center, they were trying to achieve the goal of feeling and getting relief from their pain inside their heart. So they would self-harm via cutting. Good emotional goal, non-rational, healthy, wise, and right paths. So we know, right, there could be several pathways, behaviors, choices, habits that people do that we would say, all would say, hey, that is not rational, healthy, wise, or right. Your emotional goal is good, but the pathway you're taking is not effective. It's not rational, healthy, wise, or right. In our culture currently, and it's just relatively new in the last couple of years, that there is this validation and promotion and pursuit of people choosing non-rational, healthy, wise, and right paths to achieve the very good goals of love and empathy that even just a couple of years ago, the majority of society and frankly, the world would see as not rational, healthy, wise, or right. And there's been such a shift from completely irrational to, oh no, this is rational, it's healthy, it's wise, and it's right. And I think what's happening is when people point out saying, hey, good goal, but the path is not rational, healthy, wise, or right, people interpret that as those people who say it's not rational, healthy, wise, and right as being against the emotional goal. So the emotional escalation happens because how dare you not allow me to achieve the goal of love and empathy? And we're trying to say that the love and empathy goal is wonderful, but the pathway you're taking to achieve that goal is not rational, healthy, wise, right. But because there is an enmeshment of both the emotional goal and the pathway, if we disagree with the pathway, it is automatically interpreted as hate that we also disagree with the achievement of the emotional goals of love and empathy. So if we disagree with the path, we are not being loving and we're not being empathic. You can see the issue. Now, all of us do that in all of our lives, right? So when we are having a behavior, let's say, again, drinking, and then someone comes along and points it out that, hey, that's not rational, we get defensive because even in our own minds, we want to achieve the goal of decreasing stress. I work hard, so I deserve, right? I deserve a drink. But we all do that. But eventually, once we come to ourselves, the truth kind of rises to the surface that you're right, I should not drink alcohol in order to achieve the emotional goal of reducing my stress. So that happens in so many ways. But the issue in our culture is that we are calling what used to be irrational, unhealthy, unwise, and wrong. We're now declaring it to be rational, healthy, wise, and right, and then promoting it. Do you see the problem? Whatever it is, that's the issue. So because in some of our cultural topics, it's so illogical. I mean, we're talking, anybody could step back and say, there's no even logic or reason to some aspects of this. I don't believe that the true emotional goal is actually love and empathy. I think it's being presented as that, but I don't think that that's truly the emotional goal. I believe that the true emotional goal that people are trying to achieve is the feeling of individuality and the feeling of autonomy. Now, here's some Greek language for you. So autonomy comes from two Greek words, autos and nomos. Self, and nomos means law. So self-law, that I'm the one who has the authority over my choices, and you can't basically tell me I'm wrong. There are very healthy ways of individuality. That's what's great about our culture, right? So there's good goals even to autonomy, like self-law, like self-responsibility. Individuality and autonomy are beautiful goals, but when they cover up or override truth, logic, what's rational, healthy, wise, right, that's when those two emotional goals of individuality and autonomy don't work well. So they frame it, I think our culture is framing it as love and empathy. I don't believe that those are truly the emotional goals people are going for. I think it is individuality and autonomy. That's what I think the true emotional goals are. So they frame it as love and empathy, but of course, because why? If you disagree with the pathways, that you are against love and against empathy, which means what? You hate and you have no empathy. You don't care. You're apathetic. The true emotional goals I believe that people are trying to achieve is actually individuality and autonomy. So just food for thought. But you can see the distinction of if we don't separate the emotional goals from the pathways and assess the emotional goals being good, but we have to assess the pathways, you can see the mess that we can easily get into. Back to the formula formation. Grace and empathy without truth and boundaries is enablement. And I believe we're enabling a lot of people in our culture to continue down unhealthy pathways because we're promoting love and empathy, but what we're really going for is individuality and autonomy. Don't tell me what to do. That's the actual emotional goal. However, but we also need to make sure that when we're speaking and having truth and boundaries, that we also have grace and empathy, or otherwise it's toxic. So grace and empathy without truth and boundaries is enablement, but truth and boundaries without grace and empathy is toxic. So I'm not giving any examples right now of what topics I'm talking about culturally, but I think it's obvious, isn't it? Now, my question is, if you're watching this video and you have a lot of negative emotion about what I'm saying, then according to my book, instead of thinking about me, turn around and go inward inside of yourself and start evaluating. Why do I have these negative emotions? Make your own evaluation if what I'm saying is not rational, healthy, wise, or right. Or what are those negative emotions producing? Is it insecurity? Is it fear? Are you insecure that I'm pointing out some truth or afraid that it might be right? That's what you actually need to address. Now, you could disagree with me, but disagreeing with me is not the issue. It's the negative emotional charge surrounding the disagreement is what we all have to look at, whether it be cultural topics, personal topics, family topics, topics at our job, anything. It's the negative emotions are actually is what we need to walk into because those negative emotions are exposing something. Some challenging thoughts, but look forward to talking with you some more. Have a great week.